Hey there, everybody. I am here to go live with my friend Devon Bandison. So I am going to invite him right now. Let's see. All right. So you're here, Devon, but you're not with me. So we got to handle this. This is like the worst comedy of errors ever. I have invited you in two ways. And why aren't we able to get you in here? Devon, can you make a request to join? It says that you can make a request to join. This is cuckoo. All right. I'm going to try one more time. People, we are here. We are getting set up. We are once again hitting some Facebook snafus that Facebook really does really not want us to do this. That's starting to become very clear to me, but we're going to find a way around this. So, Devon, we're going to get you here. I am confident of that. Let's see. Yeah, wait, I think we're doing it. I think I did it. Devon, I saw your picture and I was able to tap on it and allow you to join. I know you're watching. It says here Devon is watching. Oh, we did it.
Can you see me? I got to do it.
I can see you, but you just
You see me?
froze. All
I
right.
got to do it.
I can see you, but you just
You see me?
froze. All right. Okay, you got to shut off the computer. Farnaz just told us she can see both of us. All right, Devon, talk so I can hear you.
Now I hear two of you now.
Because is your computer on? You got to turn it like volume off.
Yeah, my computer's off.
Because I'm not hearing two of you.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Are you hearing one of me or two of me?
I'm hearing one.
We did it. We are here. We're even we're like a minute early, people. That's how professional we are right now. We are a minute early. We had to switch from our computers to our phones. Devon, you keep kind of freezing up.
All right, I'm good now.
All right. All right. So here we are. We are here. We are wildly professional seasoned coaches. Myself, Carolyn Freyer-Jones, and Mr. Devon Bandison here for our second conversation about creating greater impact, income, and transformation in your coaching. And we're here today to really talk. First and foremost, I had made a post and sent out an email to people about hope, about the idea of like, given what's happening in the world, given what we're seeing in Ukraine, given everything, given the polarization, like where does hope fit into the to the world of professional coaching, right? How important is hope? Does hope matter? Does hope make us a better coach? So we're going to start our conversation with that. And I'm going to share a little bit more about how I relate to this. And then Devon, I want to hear from you, okay?
Yeah, you go first. I'm hearing some back stories, so you go first, and I'll be right
All
back.
right, so I'm going to go first, and then I'm also going to make sure I'm looking at this on my computer so that I can see if we're getting questions, etc. So, all right. So here we are. So we've gone from a pandemic, which we're still in an endemic weird phase with lots of what we're seeing is upset, againstness, wrong making. Then we have a war in Ukraine where we're seeing images every day that are super disturbing and upsetting, and it's easy to feel a sense of hopelessness, right? It's just, that's part of being human, right? We see human pain and it's easy to take it on. It's easy to say, what's the point? And it started with, I had a coach in the CFJ Coaching Success School who wrote and said, I don't feel right about like sharing about my event given what's happening. And I wrote back to her on the school Facebook page, can I offer you a different point of view for your consideration? And I said, you know, when we were in the height of our fear in the pandemic, if we were in all of that, and we had all stopped serving and we'd all stopped talking to people, and we said to our clients, we can't do this anymore. We just can't. And, you know, my dad died of COVID. If I had said, I'm out, my dad died of COVID, he contracted it in a hospital, I'm out. Would that have been helpful? That was the question I posed to the coaches in my school. Would that have been helpful? And my answer was no, it wouldn't be helpful. It would not have been helpful if I had gotten off the court and stopped doing my work. Now, of course, I did for a period of time, but that had to do with, you know, helping my family and, you know, doing that. It wasn't because I felt like all was lost. And I don't want to deny that there are times when I feel hopeless, right? Like I have my own places inside where that's hard for me. And I have feelings and those kinds of things come up where it's like, is what I'm doing making a difference? And if it is it okay that I continue to do it in the face of what looks like such despair in the world? My answer is always yes. My answer is always like, how can I help, even if it's the tiniest drop in the ocean? If I can make a minor tiny drop in the ocean of difference through my work, through sharing, then I'm going to do it. Because at a minimum, I feel better when that happens. I feel better. And that's helpful to me and to my family and to the people around me. But I know that it means more. I know it makes a bigger difference than that. So I want to hear from you, Devon, because, you know, I remember very vividly when the George Floyd murder happened and everything that happened after. I know that you had time where you felt some hopelessness. You know, you have 3 children, 2 Black sons, and not that the George Floyd murder was new for you, but there was something about the whole experience that I know had you just not feeling particularly, you were in a lower place.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, I love that we're talking about this because we're in a profession that is a stand for people, is a stand for hope, is a stand for possibility. And I remember being, you know, during the George Floyd murders, there's a lot going on, and just sitting with it, you know, knowing I have 2 Black sons, and it wasn't a new conversation with me. And so you can feel hopeless sometimes, right? And there's a difference between how you feel and who you're being. And a lot of times people think that how I feel needs to leak into who I'm being, right? So I could feel hopeless, I could feel sad. I don't need to show up and be hopeless and be sad. And that's where, as a result of that, I really slowed everything down and said, what is my highest level of service here as a coach, right? Because this was around the time when COVID essential workers. And I remember talking to your group of coaches, and said, there's no more, it's like we're part of being essential workers, because we're really working with people's thoughts and their behaviors and their habits and their lives. So we were essential workers all during that time. So we have to find like our own hope in the hopelessness. And during the George Floyd murders, it was like, what is my highest level of service? And I realized I've been in this conversation my whole life. So I created something called Co-Creating the Bridge, where we had thousands of people from all over the world just in this conversation. And it really made a big impact. And the reason why it made a big impact is because of the lens in which we created the conversation. See, as coaches, we'll talk about this a little later, Carolyn, like we have this gift. Great coaches have a gift of listening and creating a space, right? This non-judgmental space. So when that conversation happened, there was no promotion of it. It just blew up. There were people on the other side of the world, 3 p.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning, joining it because they felt like they were heard. You had people with different points of view that were able to like really, really come together. So, you know, hopelessness, sometimes we're feeling down, but how we're feeling doesn't need to leak into who we're being. And the other part of that is like, I'm consistently, and I know you are too, Carolyn, filling my cup. Like I'm always doing the work on myself. I always got my routines to make sure that even, you know, when I'm not feeling like it, I have enough in my cup that I have an overflow that I can serve other people. I can be there for other people. And that's very important. A lot of coaches I see, their business is up and down because it goes by how they're feeling. Like with other businesses, we're like, oh, I don't feel good today, so I'm not going to go to work. Right. So we have to look and tap into what is the thing that kind of fills my cup so I can feel a certain way. And I remember being there when your parents passed away, and who you were being in the world. You were still serving powerfully, and there was sadness. I think it's a huge way to serve people, because we can't, you know, if we're taking the days off, right, we could take a few days off, but like if we're not showing up to work, what about all the people that we made a commitment to make a difference in their life? And they're looking, they might not have the tools that we have. So that's, you know, to me, with great success comes great responsibility. And there's a responsibility as a leader in the coaching profession to show up for people. And sometimes that's showing up when you're not feeling so hopeful.
I appreciate what you said. I appreciate that how I'm feeling doesn't have to leak into how I'm being. And one of the statements that we want to make, and we will be talking about this more at the main event, is that we as professional coaches have a responsibility to fill our cups regularly and to inspire ourselves. So it's not someone else's job to inspire me. It's my job to be inspired by people. It's my job to fill my cup, especially when I'm feeling low. Like I'm in charge of that. I'm in charge. If I get depleted, I'm in charge of finding my way back from that. And I agree with you, Devon. I do think there is some confusion sometimes for coaches that how I feel does leak into how I'm being, or that how I feel somehow will change the way in which I show up, or if I show up. If I show up. And to me, this has to get handled, right? Like in the profession, that no matter what, like how I'm feeling does not have to change my ability to show up.
Yeah. I mean, in a big way, it's what other, like to me, it's like really taking ownership of what you're a stand for and making a difference out here. And it's easy to make a difference when everything's going well, but it's like when the rubber hits the road, like life happens. And as we talk about, it's never the issue that's the issue, it's how we relate to the issue. So whether
you almost sound like you went to USM.
Almost, you know, I got all of y'all hanging around me way too much, and I love USM and all my peeps, but like it really is, it's how we relate to it. And as coaches, you know, I think that one of the muscles to build is also leadership in coaching, right? we're looked upon as leaders, not leaders like do as I say, not as I do, but leading by example. And, you know, I use the cup and the, you know, the thing under the cup in New York, we call that a saucer, right? SAWCAA, right? And it's our job as coaches, if we're going to hold space for so many people, to figure out what fills our cup. You use the word inspiration. Inspiration comes from that Latin root of the word spiro, which means to breathe life into. So we got to figure out what breathes life into us so we can fill our cup so there's an overflow. And when there's an overflow, it's hard to get depleted because now we're serving people from the overflow and not the empty cup. What most coaches do is they keep serving their family, their community, their clients through the cup, and eventually the cup gets empty. And then when hard times come, or wars, or, you know, whatever happens, deaths, they're so depleted that they're stuck. So we want to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, filling our cup, and understanding that how we're feeling never needs to leak into who we're being. We can honor our feelings and we can still show up and serve powerfully as coaches.
And I think this is important in terms of the context of why we're doing these Facebook Lives, right? Like, what does it mean to create greater impact, have greater income, and create greater transformation? We are not going to be able to create maximum transformation if we are depleted. And if we're running some idea that I can't show up based on how I'm feeling, like, or that how I'm feeling has to impact the quality of my coaching, right? Yeah. And I think as a newer coach, that gets tricky, right? Like, because we don't have as much evidence. We don't have as much experience in the showing up even when we're feeling low and having a great coaching session, right? We just don't. So some of this is about being willing to get into your coaching sessions and see what happens even when you're feeling low. And it also means, do you have a routine in which you get inspired? Do you have something you rely on, whether that's, you know, exercise, reading, spiritual practice, you know, time with friends, time with somebody you love? All those things are sources of inspiration for me, right? Like, those things really matter to me. Laughing is one of the most important things for me in terms of my own inspiration. Like, I like to laugh, and that I take that very, very seriously. What do you do, Devon?
Yeah, it's funny. You took laughter out of my right out of my mouth. You know, I like taking walks. I like my morning routine. I like spending time with my kids. So there's a lot of just playfulness time. You know, whatever my exercise routine is, those are the things that fill my cup. I'll take a walk without a phone. Like those are really part of my daily practices. Steve Chandler used to, the old LSD, that's right. Steve Chandler said, all your clients need to take LSD, laughing, singing, and dancing, right? Some kind of movement. And it's important. So when things show up, and I know how you show up, Carolyn, you know, some really difficult life on life terms challenges, you have ability to really show up powerfully for your family, and also still show up for work, right? It would be like, it's confusing to me. We're in a profession, and it's like, it's new coaches, but it's also, I've seen some coaches who've been around where it's leaking. These things happen in the world, and all of a sudden we're falling apart. It's like, if a doctor was walking down the street and someone's having a heart attack, they don't get all emotionally connected to the guy having a heart attack. Oh my God, they're going to die. It is the worst thing in the world, because then they can't serve them. So they can feel compassion for the person on the floor, and yet they still show up and they're being a doctor. They're being someone who's serving this person, and they don't need to conflate the two. But I think sometimes coaches, it's like the person's struggling and we're bringing our own stuff in. And that isn't in service to people.
Right. Well, let's hear from people, right? Because people are commenting. I want to hear, like, from people, or like, how much they've actively taking 100% responsibility for their own inspiration. Like, is that something you actively do? Do you actively have a practice for that? And have you really thought about it like that? Like, I'm responsible in my profession to make sure I am consistently uplifted, inspired, and that my cup is full. So tell us in the comments, like, what's that like for you? Is that a new thought? Is that not a new thought? Do you go off the court and kind of let what's happening in the world like keep you low? It's not that things in the world don't get me low. They can, but what do I do about it? So let's hear from some people on that. And then remember, we made a promise to you. We're going to have you walk away today with 2 new things that you can do in your practice to make your coaching better, to make your coaching deeper, to create more impact. So we don't want you to think we forgot about that, because we didn't. But Devon and I talked about this before our call today, that for both of us, we don't really hear the conversation around full responsibility for keeping yourself inspired actually creates better coaching. It creates better coaching because most people, I mean, it's a new thing, right? Most people are walking around thinking, oh, but my feelings absolutely leak into how I'm being, right? They have the two conflated. It's like spaghetti, right? So when we coach a leader and we say to a leader, hey, you know what? Even though you're feeling low about this, you can still show up and lead. That's a really new idea for people. So let's hear from people. What do you, I'm looking on the comments.
So I see, yeah.
Hey, Rita, nice to see you. I see you. I read Farnaz said she reads her I am statement to feel inspired. That's great. That's great. I'm active in my own happiness. Devon has helped me refocus on my calendar, being my boss to stay on the field. Love it.
Yeah.
I always read, listen to others, and learn from others. Let's see, self-care, reading, healthy food, sharing times with friends and peers. Beautiful. I sometimes get drawn into what's happening in the world. I have a practice of going to the gym and walking my dogs for space. That's great. Hey, I'm Rita. Listen to daily podcasts with people like Dr. Ranjan Chatterjee, Gabor Mate, yep, Alanis Morissette. Well, of course, Alanis Morissette, Paula. I mean, come on. Good.
Well, music's a big thing, which is why, you know, you're also known as Notorious CFJ, because one of the greatest poets of our lifetime, his anniversary of his death was yesterday, was my man Biggie Smalls. So you're keeping the legacy alive of Notorious CFJ, Carolyn.
Oh, good to know. Farnaz did ask also how we fill our cups, so I'll give you a couple of other specifics. So I have a very regular fitness routine, right? That is usually 4 days a week. One of those days is a workout with my husband, which I love, and that is a source of upliftment. My daughter and I and my husband, we'll see how much he shows up in it, just started playing Wordle every day together, like seeing how we do. I have a spiritual practice. I have people that I connect with regularly that bring me a lot of joy and meaning in my life. And that's like my go-tos, right? My spiritual practice, my exercise routine, and being with my family and having fun with them and really taking everything that's happening in the world off the table, right? Like that it's like at the end of the day, these are the people that I wake up with and these are the people I go to sleep with. And that's a very sacred space in our lives. It's like a sacred space. And so that's what I do every day. And Devon, I think yours is different.
Yeah, for me, it's like I have something called the Power Hour. So
right.
The POWER, as long as I hit all of these throughout the day, I'm good. I usually start my morning like that. So P stands for peace. So that's like my morning quiet time, meditation, spiritual practice. O stands for openness. So that's where I do journaling. I go through my created life document. W stands for questions I ask myself every morning is who needs me today? What am I about to do and why am I about to do it? You know, Steve Jobs used to go to the mirror every day and say, if this was the last day of my life, would I be doing what I'm about to do? And if the answer was no, too many days in a row, he changed his routine. So W stands for who, what, and why. E stands for exercise and movement. So I have like, I'm back just in the groove. And then R stands for reading. So I'm always reading every day, or listening to something, sharpen my saw, that I could, get better myself, and then also serve my clients. And then I would just add like time with the family, like time with the family and the love of my life. So we FaceTime every day, and sometimes we'll dance and we'll move and laugh a lot as well. So that's kind of that's my go-tos.
Yeah. And my other source of inspiration is my coach, right? Like I have a
Yeah.
coach where if I'm feeling low, I go there, right? Like I can reach out to him. I have sessions on the calendar. Those are really important to me. Like those are things I look to, right? And there are people that I follow that have things to say every day that are really more about internal focus than external focus. I'm always looking for ways to remind myself that everything is happening inside. It's really not outside. It's really
Yeah.
the core of how I relate to my life is the issue. It's not even my life. It's how I relate to my life. I love,
Alex, yeah.
there's one good one here. I've created a success or feel good folder that contains things I've accomplished, compliments received. And you talked about that last week.
Yep. The success journal.
Yep.
And it's
Great.
really big. It's beautiful to have, like, so someone posts something, they send you an email on how you impacted them. It's really important. Like Steve Chandler and I used to work on this and have this big success journal, because then when there were times of like feeling hopelessness or things aren't moving like I thought they would, I can go and really see the impact I'm making, right? So through my game changers, through the stuff we do, we always get this great feedback. So a success journal is really, really powerful. Alex asked, Alex, we could send our playlist. I will say one song. I wake up to the same song now, and I change it. But the song I wake up to is Bill Withers' Lovely Day. So the first song that I listen to, like that wakes me up in the morning, is Lovely Day. And that's what I want to feed my brain with when I start my day.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's go to I love what everyone is sharing, and we could definitely share a playlist. Had a coaching set with Amber Shirley this morning, struggling through letting go of old connections. And boy, did she allow space for me to bring in my commitment and accountability. Yep. It's great.
Amber's an all-star. She's amazing.
That's right. That's right. And congratulations, Linda. You just received your first referral. We love that. Devon, let's talk about, because we had said there were some other things we want to talk about, and hope is still part of this. This idea around what are teaching versus coaching.
Oh yeah. So one of the things that I notice is, and this isn't just new coaches, but I notice it with new coaches, that there's a tendency to lean heavy and get into teaching rather than coaching people. And there's several reasons why people fall into this. One of the reasons is that, they're uncomfortable around like space, around the quiet space. And to me, nobody can outquiet me. And Carolyn, we know that the magic, Mozart used to say, music isn't in the notes. Music is in the space between the notes. And it's similar in coaching. If coaching was just talking and teaching and talking and talking, it'd just be noise. But what makes it beautiful music, what makes it a beautiful coaching session, is the space. And a lot of coaches they're not comfortable with the space. So they go right into teaching. And sometimes they're teaching and they're coaching to the wrong problem. Like people they just jump on something and they have an idea or a tool and they want to teach people. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a teaching aspect of coaching, as you get nuanced in the game, and there's stuff that you say, hey, let's go to the whiteboard and let me just show you a distinction here. That's different. I think that it's very important for coaches to really have a listening, right? Like the number one thing to me, the two things that would make a great coach is listening and curiosity, not having the answers. Like really slowing down and listening and asking more questions rather than telling people. And a lot of things, what also is behind it is not just uncomfortable with the space. They're also like they have this pressure. They feel this pressure to fix something. Like they don't realize their job in a coaching conversation is not to fix something, right? It's not to like, oh, every coaching conversation has to have this huge breakthrough where my mind is blown. That's not how it works. Because some of my most powerful breakthroughs and clients' breakthroughs were like, we have a session and then they go in the shower the next day and all of a sudden it all pops, or they're taking a walk. So we want to look at where we're teaching more than coaching. And when we're teaching, it becomes you in front of the room. Hey, look at me. I know this. And the tendency for you to be on a pedestal is higher when you're teaching more and asking less. So if you want more trust in a coaching relationship, the ask to tell ratio has to be higher ask, lower tell. If you're just telling,
let's talk about that. I think that's a really important one, because we talked about it before we got on the call. Like, do we as coaches really know what we're supposed to do in a coaching session? Like, do we know what we're supposed to do? Right? Because if you had some baseline training, like at a certificate program, right? You know, you get some baseline training, which can be a good starting place, but that's only a starting place. That's not really where profound transformation occurs, right? And, you know, look, I think many coaches have this question, Devon, it's like, what's my job? Is my job to, like, you know, there's this whole thing that can go on. Am I supposed to help them get this thing that they say they want? Like this thing, whether it's a new job or a relationship or money, you know, or even an inner thing, right? If someone's like, I'm really challenged with impatience and I really want to become more patient, is it my job, like, to deliver that? So I think this will be valuable for us to talk about. And obviously we want to hear from you and, you know, people who are here with us about, like, do you know what your job is? And maybe you can share, well, what do you think your job is when you're in a coaching session with people, right? What is my job? What?
I want to hear it in the comments below. What is your job in a coaching session?
Yeah, because I think for a long time, I definitely thought, well, my job is to help them fix or handle whatever challenge they're presenting. Yeah. Because that felt not easy, but it certainly felt like it was more tangible, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel that way at the beginning?
Yeah, it was like a lot of, you know, it becomes almost, sometimes there's like a checklist. They have these things, these issues, and you work a lot on like goal line stuff. Now, there's nothing wrong with goal line stuff. You know, in, you know, USM, they say goal line, soul line. Steve Chandler says chess moves versus chess player. But like for me, my number one job in a coaching conversation, or one of the, you know, I said being curious and listening, is what I'm listening for is unquestioned thoughts. That's what I'm listening for. I'm listening in how they're creating, what they want, whatever they want to create. That's okay, because we could create the goal line stuff, right? We could create, but yet what just as important is the soul line, the inner work. But what I'm listening for, Carolyn, is what are these unquestioned beliefs and thoughts that are getting in the way here? And if I can hear that and slow that down and uncover that, they'll see the answer is not outside of them on some whiteboard in some system. The answer, I direct them right back to the source, which is them.
It's great. I just saw somebody said, the client is the expert on themselves. I think it was Paula. Support the client to discover who they really are and what they really want. My job is to be an explorer. It's so contextual, but to be the possibility for them is the best. My job is to create a safe space where we can work at the speed of trust and my clients can be present to who they are being or trying to be. My job is to pilot listening and curiosity. Know that the client has all the answers within themselves. Listen and ask the right questions. That's great, right? That's all really good stuff. And it's like not being attached to the results. One of my jobs, one of the things I listen for, because I think it's a great question that Devon and I talked about, it's like, what are you listening for? So I'm always listening for judgment. I am listening for judgment and assumptions lived as if they were true. Right? Assumptions. And as coaches, we can make a lot of assumptions about people. We can make snap assumptions about what we think somebody needs to be working on. We can make snap assumptions about what they need. So I'm listening for my client's judgments and my client's assumptions lived as true, but I'm equally listening as much to my own assumptions that are running through my head, right? Because we all have stuff running through our mind when we're with people. And we want to quiet that, but we also don't want to let assumptions to be hanging out in there about someone sitting in front of us, right? About someone. So it's important to know, what are you listening for in your sessions? Like, what are you listening for? There's listening and there's what you're listening for. You know, to me, to create greater transformation with someone, I have to be willing to take them into territory they've never gone before, right? I have to. So I have to be willing to ask questions that might be unasked that could be uncomfortable, that might point them inside in a way that they might not like. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I'm not transformation is not, I mean, it's not like I'm ever like, oh, this is going to be the most powerful session of your life. I don't really operate that way. That's not like, I'm like, this is it. We're going to, like, I don't do that. That's not how I coach. But I am willing to be like, what have I not asked before? What have I not asked? What have I assumed about this person that I haven't really checked out?
Yeah, and what I love about the main event, we're going to give real live takeaways where people can take it into the practice. Stuff we do that challenges both our clients, but also our inner ourselves, right? So for me, you know, you're listening for judgments and I'm listening for unquestioned thoughts and beliefs. And you in many ways are listening for assumptions. It's like, how can we practically apply that in our practice without forgetting, right? And Caroline I love her honesty, right? She's like, I fall into that sometimes, right? Advice giving. And takes time to really just shut up, she says, right? And that's not uncommon, Caroline, for a lot of coaches. And a lot of coaches who've been around for a while too, when you run game film on their sessions, some of them are talking way more than they need to. And, you know, I remember, I don't know if I mentioned Nancy Klein, Time to Think. My favorite line from that book was when she said something, and I'm going to paraphrase. She said, what makes you think what you're about to say out of your mouth is more valuable than what that person can come up with some time to think, with some space? And so our job is to create a space. And yes, is there times where we lead and we may have something to share? Yes. And yet we want to make sure that we're in a listening that we can really truly question and challenge our own listening, like Carolyn was saying about the person, and then also challenge their unquestioned beliefs that are showing up everywhere in their life.
Right.
So they may, you know, they'll tell you about their husband or wife, but like, you show me any other area of their life, that same unquestioned belief is coming up. How you do anything is how you do everything. It's showing up everywhere else.
I think it would be helpful if people want to share like what they're listening for. Do they know what they're listening for? Because one of my favorite things to do, and this is a practice that we want to give you today, because really, obviously, one of the things that Devon and I said when we said we wanted to do the main event is we wanted coaches to be able to walk away immediately from the time that we all have together, not just better coaches, but just because our clients, like, they know themselves best, right? And we want to honor that. We know ourselves best, right? So, you know, Devon and I have talked about this idea. Like, I can't take people into territory that I've never gone, right? So if I haven't handled, you know, a number of my own judgments, if I haven't resolved my own issues around my parents, around how I see myself in the world, if I have judgments that the world's not fair and only certain people get opportunities, if I haven't handled that, that's going to leak into how I'm being, right? So I have to really be clear. Where have I not handled my stuff in the name of I can't take other people there, right? So those are places where I'm not the best coach for someone. And this is a challenge sometimes for coaches, right? Because coaches are like, well, I could help that person, right? And one of the things I so love about Steve Chandler is he never says that. He never assumes he can help anybody, and he never assumes he can help everybody. He is really okay with saying, I don't think I'm the right coach for this person, right? So I have a question. It's like, what is everybody listening for? Because one of my favorite things to do, I didn't really language it this way, but Devon and I know another coach and another team that language it this way, and we're going to have you practice this. It's like, what do you double click on? When you're listening to someone, what do you double click on? What words do you double click on? What are you double clicking on when someone is sharing? Because what you double click on tells you a lot about you and where you are, but it also is a place where you can go deeper with someone. So when you're in a session, think about your last coaching session and be like, what did I double click on with that person?
Yeah. And I like when you double click a mouse and you have a screen open, you double click, another screen opens up. So that's the analogy we're using. So look at your last session and see where was the double clicks? Where were you exploring with them?
We want to hear. So it's interesting.
Alex said my ears to the scanner was, yeah, Alex said he listens for possibility. Gareth says he also watches for things, seeing unconscious body language, like it, reflecting that back. What is their meaning? Good.
And then the words should, ought to, supposed to.
Yep.
Judgments, stories that are no longer serving. Okay, I hear you, Jennifer. It's hard because it's the whole picture, right? Double click on a belief, an assumption, a fixed mindset, a comment, a worry.
Perfect.
Good. Yeah, that's great. I listen for contradicting statements. Those are great too.
John said, just got off a call, lack of precision speaking. Yeah, like when people are just talking a lot and not saying nothing, right? They're just saying a whole lot of words, and it's just repetitive. So you wanna look at that. You want to take a look at that and question it.
Positionality. That's a great one too, right? Old repetitive patterns, right? Especially assumptions, right? Especially now. Like there is so like I don't think we could have more people on a position than we do currently in terms of the world, right? So to me, it's such an important time as coaches to be willing to slow all that down and look at that, look at positionality, look at generalizations, right, Amrita, to look at all that. So now here's the next question for all of you. It's like, what don't you know that you don't know? Like, what are you wondering about that you might be missing that you're not double clicking on, right? Like, where are the places you might not be double clicking?
Or that you want to get better at, that you notice, and it's like not a strength.
Right, right. Like just so everybody knows, I don't dance very much. Now that may seem like benign, like so nobody's going to double click on watching me dance. I like to sing, I just don't dance very often. So I just want everyone to know that because Devon shared about how he moves, and I admire that. But at the main event, there won't be a dance party. Like, I just want to be clear. Well, maybe there will if Devon does it, and I'll play along. I'm listening to themes and underlying assumptions. I listen for the 20% that will give them the 80% of the results they are looking for. Emmerich, I like this. I listen for when they speak beautifully about themselves.
Great catch.
If I haven't reflected to allow the client to clarify for themselves. So here's a question. We want to hear your answers about like where are you not double clicking, or where do you think you could get better? How fast do you think you're moving on double clicking? That's another one, because sometimes as coaches, Devon was saying in the beginning, we double click. I apologize, I just hit my phone. We'll double click quickly, and it may not be where the client wanted to go. And
Right.
I think that's a big one. As we get better as coaches, I think there can be a tendency to think we know where the client should go, right?
And Michelle said that in between the line sense of what they are really saying, truly tapping into my instincts when I get into their world. You know, that, oh, how did I do? Did I lose you? Can you see me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, that is really what I call when you get a feel for the game, Michelle. Like, and Carol and I are going to share some of our the opportunities that we saw over the years, and things that allowed us to really get comfortable in the game of coaching, where we hear kind of what's the unsaid. It's not always what's said, but what's unsaid, and really tapping into our inner wisdom and our intuition in a way that's really powerful, where clients will turn to you and say, like, how did you get to that so quick? Are you reading my mind? Like, that was all the way back here. I didn't even, and then there's a new realization. And that's all from listening, and also getting a feel for the game from the work that Carolyn talked about. It's like, you can't go anywhere with someone you've never been willing to go yourself. You can't take someone somewhere you've never been.
Right. So it's interesting. In that note, Farnaz said, I need to get more comfortable with my client's discomfort.
Yeah.
So then that question goes to Farnaz, how comfortable are you with your own discomfort? Like, do you tend to want to jump out of that? It's like, that's what you want to look at, right? What we're uncomfortable with, that tends to be where we don't want to go with clients. Oh, okay. I dream bigger than the client. This also has a dark side when they don't see their possibility. So this is where it gets really subtle, right? It's like, one of the things that I think there's opportunity, and we're going to talk about this in the main event in a bigger way, is how much in subtle and not subtle ways we are running our own agenda in the coaching.
Yeah.
Right? We have our own agenda for what we think is possible for someone. Right? So we're going to do a lot around like and this is where it gets nuanced inside. Where is my own agenda coming into play here? Right? About what I think is available to someone versus what they think. You know, in USM language, the way we would talk about this is, how do we know what's for someone's highest good? Right? And I've seen this a lot, right? And I've done this, so I'm not saying anything I haven't done, where I've had an idea about what's for someone's highest good, and I've been really wrong. Like, wrong. I've had clients be like, that's not what I'm thinking about, right? So do you want to say anything about that, Devon, in terms of that? Like, how do I get out of my
definitely. We've all had that experience. I think that part of the mastery of becoming a great coach out here is, like, we all have those experiences, and you know, I know that you could share a few and I could share a few. It's like, our job isn't to lead anybody anywhere, right? And when we don't check our assumptions at the door, when we don't check our beliefs of what's best for them at the door, we could subtly nudge them. And we could nudge clients, and that's not the highest level of service to them. And they'll end up being, you know, regretful, resentful. So we always want to challenge, right? Like, and I also think, Carolyn, there's something about challenging clients. Like, when they say that they want to do something, they want to get there, like, really challenging that. Like, I hear you saying that, and is that true? Or is that just something you've been saying at family picnics for the last 10 years, that this is what you want to do, right? And as a coach, like, one of the things clients will recognize with you is one, nobody in my life, they'll say something like this to you. And if they haven't said it to you yet, there's some practice to be done. Like, nobody in my life has listened to me, right? Listen generously to me the way you do. And two, nobody has the conversations or asks the questions or says the things you say to me. Like, you have to be willing to say the things everybody else in their life is scared to say. And to me, that's like really when you're on the court and you're in mastery of with a client, where you see it and you don't wait. You know, my man Chris Doris used to say, like, one of the biggest mistakes he's ever seen people make is putting unnecessary time between what they want to create and where they are now. Like, just putting unnecessary time in between. And how you can, like, get on the court with that is by challenging people early and saying, hey, how committed are you? I just got called Brandon. Thanks, Paula. But I'm Devon. Love you. We can go so many ways with that. That's so fun. And, you know, I love you. And that's, you know, that's the other thing, having some levity, right? Like being willing to laugh at yourself and laugh with clients, but also being straight with them.
I appreciate, Emerick, what you said. Projection is my greatest fear in coaching, sometimes to a fault that I may hold back. So I definitely err maybe to a safe side. So Emerick, I think you mean, right, that you're concerned about projecting onto them, so that makes you hold back. I think that's what you're saying to us, and you can confirm that. And I want to, like, look, I hear you on that, and I want to be a voice for, like, 5%, taking 5% more risks. 5% more risks with people, right?
Yeah.
Because my experience in projection is, if I'm really projecting on a client, I'm going to get that feedback loud and clear. Like, I don't need to be concerned, right? Either my own internal feedback will be like, don't go there. That's yours, Carolyn. That's not theirs. Or if I say it, it'll be indicated to me. See, I thought what Alex said was interesting. He said, you know, one of my opportunities is checking in more, not waiting till the end of the session, right? So it's like to really be like, let me slow that down. One of the greatest skills that the University of Santa Monica teaches is the skill of perception checking, And it's a skill I use all the time. It's like, so here's a question. I have no idea if I'm accurate. Or here's what I heard you say. Let me know if this is accurate or not. Right? Perception check. See, because perception check can handle so much, right? So it's like, I can really say, like, so I have this perception going on, and I'm wondering if it's accurate or not. Right? And it may not be, because one of the things we want to do as coaches, especially if we want to create deeper transformation, is we want to be really clear with people. We may not know. Like, I want to be really clear with someone, especially when they're in a big situation. I want to be able to say to them, I don't really know what's going to happen here. And to be really okay with that, right? Like, I don't know what's going to happen with these choices. You know, and I'm a fan of saying, like, there's never I really want to say there's never a bad choice, because sometimes there are choices that have different consequences, which may not be so great. And it's like, I want to be really okay with saying, I don't know. And that's a question for everyone. It's like, how often are you saying, I don't know?
Yeah.
Right? Because people, let's be clear, our clients want to please us. They want to do a good job for us. That happens. That's really human, right? So you want to be sensitive to that, right? I don't want clients to get all like they're doing stuff for me, to please me. It's human nature that we want to please those people that are in, like, I've wanted to please Steve Chandler, certainly. And I've had to really pull myself out of that. It's like, to really get, like, he's not going to be disappointed in me no matter what. Is there anything you want to say about that, Devon?
No, you hit it right on the head. I just had something I'd like people to write down as a practice. Like, one thing we want to take for them, with them, is like, over the next week, because we got another Facebook Live. We're not done now, but like in a week, it's like, can we take the double click, like really the awareness of what we're double clicking on into our coaching conversations over the next week? Like what would 10% more awareness of that, of like, what am I listening for? Like bring that question, that awareness into your coaching sessions over the next week. Like, what is it that I'm really listening for? Because in that listening, right, you're going to have a new awareness of who and how you are showing up as a coach. So write that
Absolutely.
down. Yeah.
And then here's another one. In the next week, look at where are you getting challenged by what's happening in the world and what's happening for your clients.
Yep.
Right? Like just notice that. Like, are you willing to note it? Be like, where am I challenged in what's happening in the world? And where am I challenged in what's happening with my clients? You know, I have coaches in my school who will be like, this person said they wanted this, and then they changed their mind. They change their mind, and the coach gets mad that they change their mind. And I get it, because it's like, you know, we want something for someone when we're bought in, but it's like, what does it mean when we're bothered when a client decides they don't want something? Right? What does that mean? So it's really like, are you willing to explore where are you in wanting what they want more than they do? More than they do. So in the next week, besides double clicking and getting really more aware of like, what am I double clicking on and what's making me double click on this?
And
it's
what
like,
am
where am I getting bothered? Where do I get
listening for? So in the double clicking, it's like, what am I listening for here? And really get aware of your own coaching. And then the second question, as Carolyn said, is like, where am I getting bothered or challenged?
Irritated.
Yeah.
Annoyed.
And then, yeah. And then the next step to that is once you identify where you're getting irritated, track back the thought behind that irritation. What's the thought that you're believing in that moment, right? Like, what's the thought you're believing to be triggered or to be challenged or for it to occur like that? So that's the bonus assignment, like practice, you know, B. So if someone could write in the comments the 2 questions to take with us over the next week, that would be helpful.
Only because Devon and I don't want to like crash our Facebook Live by trying to do that for you. But we can do it after the Facebook Live too.
Okay, perfect.
Because it's a really important question to look at. When and where do you get annoyed? Because being annoyed with clients certainly happens. It's human, but it does get in the way of the coaching. It does get in the way of the coaching, right? And if you want to create more impact with your clients, one of the number 1 jobs you have to do is, am I letting my own annoyance get in the way of really serving them, right? Because I know coaches who are constantly annoyed with their clients.
Thanks,
They're
Michelle.
constantly annoyed. And that's not helpful. Human, but not helpful. So it's like, where are you annoyed? Because there's a lot of information in that annoyance for you. Steve Chandler used to joke with Michelle because she'd say, I'm so annoyed. He'd be like, well, isn't that just a code word to cover up that you're triggered? Like, you're triggered, isn't that really the word? But annoyed means like, maybe I don't have to do anything about it. I can just be annoyed.
Beautiful. So we got the homework in the comment section. Michelle, Alex, Paula, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Devon, do you have any, like, I'm curious, you know, because you're coaching a lot, as am I. Like, do you have a recent situation where maybe you were coaching someone? I have one that I can share. I'm coaching a leader, and we were in a coaching session just this week. And, you know, it was really nuanced in that there was something going on for her with her spouse, but she really didn't want to talk about it. She really didn't want to. She was pretty honest about that. You know, she was like, I don't really want to deal with that. You know, I don't like what's happening there because it's not what I want. So, and then it's nuanced, right? Like, I think it's an important thing to look at. Like, this is someone I've been coaching now we're going on a year. So there's a lot of trust in the relationship. So there's a lot more room for me to be like, well, let's slow down. Like, can we talk about this thing that you don't want to talk about? Right? Like, I can say that to her. Right? But that has taken time. This person has been, I would say, I don't want to say more difficult to get to know, but she's been more guarded. It's taken more time for that kind of give and take to be okay for her, right? And so that's another thing that when we deepen in our coaching and become more masterful, there's more like, we know when trust is there and we know when it's not. We know when it's not. We know when we're coming in too hot, like, oh, wow, there's not enough trust built up here. Have you ever had a situation like that, Devon, with someone?
Yeah, I mean, one of my longest clients is a doctor, been with me many years, and she was very reactive, like over the years. She ran 10 different locations, and I remember the first time I went to, she brought me in to a team meeting, and she didn't even tell people I was coming or who I was. I was like the celebrity mole. And the team meeting was so volatile that, it's never good in New York when it ends with these words, like, who are you talking to? Like, that's how it ended, right? So we get out the team meeting when I first saw it, and she was like, well, you see, we need some help. I said, yeah, you think so? I said, the good news is it's only up from here, right? And we've done some great work over the years, but she was very reactive. So early on in building the relationship, it was like you push her a little bit, and then you pull back and allow her to get awareness. And just recently, there was a woman who left and wasn't so kind, and she was just chill. Like, it was just the work had settled in, and she was able to come back to me. It was like, and said, oh man, like, I can see how the work and the trust, and like, it just kicks in over time. And like you said, Carolyn, that has always been a dance. Early on, you're building trust with people, so you don't want to come in so hot, but like, you want to be straight with people too, right? Like, for me, I don't want to hold back, but yet I do want to dance the right dance with them at the right time.
How,
And that does,
how long
yeah.
have you been coaching her?
I started with her. I've been coaching her almost a decade now.
So I want
Going on.
everyone to hear that, because I knew Devon had been coaching this person a long time. That's almost a decade. So really, as we wrap it up for today, I want everyone to really hear this. Like, that is a really great demonstration of deep coaching over time, right? Because look at that. So this was someone who initially was really reactive, and it took time so that Devon could really get in there and start to work on what was creating that reactivity, help her to like learn how to do that differently, all of that. But that's a decade. Do you know how rare that is in the world of coaching to have a client for that long? I mean, the average, just so everyone knows, is like 1 to 3 years. That's the average of how long you'll work with someone for. So Devon has someone who's close to a decade. I have a number of people that I coached for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, right? It's like, I have 2 people I'm coaching right now. They're going on their 4th year together. We are partners. So I share that as possibility for everyone, right? That can get created. You can do that. That can occur. So we don't want anyone. One of the things we're going to do is like debunk some ideas that like having long-term clients who pay you a strong fee over time, like that can occur. And that has everything to do with the quality of your coaching. That's all that is.
And that's a big thing. Like, that's one of the things I'm most excited about the main event. Like, we're gonna do this whole section on what we call R&R, renewals and referrals. Like, creating through mastery, becoming such a great coach that your practice receives a lot more renewals and referrals, where there's always different levels to go with clients. And like you, Carolyn, there's so many different clients that continue to renew, and there's more stuff to work on, and it's amazing.
It's the best. I mean, it's so fun. And not that it's a requirement. You may not want to coach someone for that long, but we want you to know it's possible. And Michelle, I love what you shared about what you had with your client. That's fantastic. Good for you. And Paula, I like you asking them at the outset how comfortable they are with being challenged, right? It's a great question. So guess what? We're just about done. So if you're going to come back next week, we want to hear, how was it? Like, tell us what happened when you got more aware of double clicking. What did you notice that you got annoyed by? And know that those things, even in of itself, will create more depth in your coaching. You'll have more room inside to go more places, right? And try double clicking on some stuff you normally wouldn't. Be like, you know what? I don't usually double click on this kind of thing, but I'm going to. I want to see what happens. All right. Anything else you want to say to be complete, Devon?
No, I just want to acknowledge everybody who was really on the court participating with us. It was fun. Always fun to be with you, CFJ. And same time, same bat channel next Thursday. And that'll be our final Facebook
That's right.
Live. Yeah.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.